I'll be going over the Project 3 for the Unreal level. I'll do a quick playthrough real quick, and then I'll explain everything that's going on. Alright, so that was a quick playthrough of the level. Now I'll break it down into details. So first, this is the thing that I added, the security cam movement. So it uses a basic linear path to calculate its movement from a timeline. I called it rotation. In the rotation, it uses the math. So it takes the rotation that it has, and then it adds new rotations to it, and then sets it back to the actor. And the way that it determines whether it's moving left or right is by the FlipFlop. It sets it to negative 0.01 or to 0.01. And then we have the box pusher, which is this mechanism up here. So what happens there is at the beginning it does everything that it sets off everything. It also uses a timeline. So what the timeline does is it just increments from this point to this point, and then it plays backwards by adding it. First it takes the initial position of where it is, so I can move it around in the future, and then it'll do the same thing. And then it takes that and then it adds the new one. So by it moving backwards, it'll add the maximum first, and then it'll kind of reduce it. So it'll move backwards, but by moving forward, if that kind of makes sense. And then it just sets the locations. It uses the multiplier, which is that's basically the speed of how I wanted to set it. And then it adds it onto the initial position, and then it sets it back to the actor. It also uses a flip-flop, and it uses an and statement. The main room lights, that one used the flip-flop here to determine if the lights were going to turn on or if they were going to turn off. They use ForEach, and then it sets the intensity to 10,000, or if it's being turned off, it sets them all to 0. So that's the array of lights. Because I had a lot of lights, I couldn't do it individually. So the falling box, that's the box that falls from right there. I did not generate any physics for it. I just wanted to do a timeline instead. So what the timeline does is it calculated the x position, which it moved it back. For the first 2 seconds, it was strictly just moving it backwards, and then after those 2 seconds, it would do a gravity fall off. So it would start out slow, and then it'll speed up as it moved down. and then as it reached the bottom, it would sink back down to the ground. And then for the spin, it was kind of similar. So it started off slow, and then it sped up, and then slowed up again. So it looked kind of realistic, but it used the timeline to achieve this. There was a delay after each increment, so every time it finished, 2 seconds after, it would drop a new one, and it would just play from the start. So it would set back the positions to the locations, and then it would just play again. So that wasn't difficult. This sets the location, it adds the values to the initial locations, and then this sets the rotation by adding the rotation. It'd be 0 or whatever this Y sets it, because it starts off at 0, 0 anyway, so I didn't make any initial vector for that. For the possession, I used a gate. So instead of using an in range kind of thing like I always do, I actually have it right there, I took it off, but instead of doing the in range thing, I use the gate node. So if they're in range, it sets it to open, and if they're out of range, it sets it to closed. And then when you press E, that's when it actually runs the possession for the player, or for the pawn. So this uses the do ones. So this detects the damage, and then enables the physics of this box that's right here. So once it detects damage, it'll drop the box. And finally, this uses a sequence. So the hallway lights, it turns them all individually off. And then I was gonna do the same up here, but I found this better way of doing it without using the sequence. And let me see if I'm missing anything. Oh, this is the camera that renders the video. That uses a timeline to move back and forth, or to rotate. So this is the rotation one. This renders the video also, but this has nothing to do with the video rendering. It's just strictly rotation.